This handheld here is the Anbernic RG35XX Pro. Now, there's obviously a ton of handhelds out there, and it's been a very amazing run for the last several years by very good brands like Anbernic and Trim UI and a bunch of others. We just keep getting more and more handhelds, and that's good. It's good because we get choices and we have an opportunity to find what works best for us. You know, if you want a clamshell, Anbernic has a solution for you. If you want something a bit more pocketable, here's a Trim UI brick. All of these, by the way, came from LitNXT. In some cases, I bought things. In some cases, they sent me products for purposes of testing and review. But regardless, that's a great place where you can buy your products. They often run sales. Like right now, there's a Halloween sale where you get 15% off. You just go to the website, you'll see it at the top there in red. And they also have a ton of different options. And sometimes they'll go as far as to add some level of customization, like installing Surwish OS on some of these products, like the Flip here. I guess they don't call this one the Flip, the SP, sorry. I'm thinking of a different one. Anyhow, our focus today is going to be on the RG35XX Pro. So you get a 3.5-inch LCD display, vertical orientation, of course. It comes in three different colors. There's white, black, and a transparent teal that I think looks really cool. In addition, there are three different storage sizes, either 64 gigs or 64 with a 128 expansion or 64 with a 256 gig expansion. Prices start at $76 without the sale, right? So you take your 15% off if you do it quickly. And then up to $96. Again, that's the retail price. Now, in a moment, I'll get it all fired up and we'll take a look at the OS and some different options and stuff. I'll do a complete tour here for you too and talk to you about my experience traveling with it. But before I get to that, we do need to finish with some of the just features and functions that this thing has to offer. Because I know a lot of people do care about screen resolution and processors. So let me tell you about that stuff here right quick. So as I mentioned, 3.5-inch IPS display with an OCA full lamination. The resolution is 640 by 480. It does run on the H700, which is a quad-core ARM chip. So it generally runs at 1.5 gigahertz, if I remember correctly, and it has just 1 gig of RAM. So depending on your use case and your demand, like you might want something more powerful, or you may be very powerful or be very happy with the power you get from this one. It does have very good battery life with a rating of 7 hours. I didn't test the battery life. I just played on this thing for a while here and there. For me, my use case personally is I like to jump around between games and throw it in my pocket if I can fit it, depending on what I'm wearing, and then bust it out when I'm in line waiting for something, or maybe I'm at the airport, which I do often. I'm just kind of sitting around bored, and I don't want to milk battery off my handheld gaming PC. I'll go to something like this where I can just sort of zone out for a bit. But more on that in a moment. Okay, in addition, we get 2 dual joysticks. This is my first handheld with 2 joysticks for retro gaming, and I struggled to find games where I could take advantage of that, but that doesn't mean that you would have that struggle. You might find some games where you can do that, but they're fully functional and they work, and I'll tell you about that here again in a minute. Okay, in addition to your D-pad and your common face buttons, and I'll comment on how these feel in a moment, and we'll do a sound test, you also have 4 buttons on the back, R1, R2, L1, and L2. Also on the back, just notice there is no harness or component here to open up and get access to the battery. It's a rechargeable battery over USB-C. If you want to access this thing, it's just 6 screws to get in there, and you're right in. Now, at the bottom, that is not your USB-C port. That will be at the top, as well as an HDMI mini, so you get HDMI out if you want to, and a headphone jack, which is going to be very helpful for everybody who doesn't want to use Bluetooth. But Bluetooth is on board, as well as Wi-Fi if you want to get access to it. So next thing we're going to do is a sound test. Let's get to it now. Start with the face buttons. And now the D-pad. For all intents and purposes, D-pad is effectively quiet. Joysticks. Start and select. Function button. And then these side buttons really don't make any sound whatsoever. Here's volume. Right? Very quiet. Okay. Next, we need to talk about the overall design. Okay. So shaped like an NES or like a Game Boy rather. You have your speaker. This is not actually the speaker, it's just a cutout. But you have your cutout here that looks like the speaker. And then a little rounding here. The rest is more of a 90-degree sharper. It's not sharp like it's going to hurt you, but it's just stylistically sharper. Then on the sides, we have SD card slot, volume button on the other side, the other SD card slot. Notice this is empty. I'm just not utilizing it. And then you have your power button up here, and I cannot remember what this button does. Another function button, let's just call it that. And oh, I didn't test the sound on these. A bit clicky, but I'd still call them quiet, especially if you're in a crowded room. No one's going to hear you. Here at the top, thinner than what's on the base. We have some status lights, USB-C for both data and charging, our HDMI that I mentioned already, and the headphone jack. When you fire this thing up, you're greeted by a very friendly OS. Let me get back here. So this is your main OS screen where you can access all of your games, and then another section for games, your application center where you get things like Wii, favorites, go into your history, see what you recently played. You can do a broader search, get into the settings as well. Here inside the settings, one of the things I did, like I turned off the menu music. I don't like that. I played around with the backlighting. You can test your controls if you want to. You can go right into RetroArch and do some settings there. And you can play around with some other button menus and such like that. Okay, so applications, music, video. If you want to read a book, there's a PDF reader. I mean, this is running on top of Android, so you got access to everything. Here's Wii as well, pre-installed, by the way. Totally worked last time. Okay, there we go. So now you see you got access to Wii and some settings as well. If you want to get into that, you can. There we go. Exiting. Perfect. So for my purposes, even though this can do a whole lot more than play NES or Game Boy games, those are the kind of games I like to play on a handheld. I love going through Game Boy games and I've never played this one. I'm going to launch it and see what kind of game it is. You know, this one looks like a top-down shooter. Those are fun to me. I like getting into those. Yeah, PC Engine, a lot of games available here, Game Gear, so forth and so on. Now, if you want to play a game that's going to take advantage of the two sticks, then you're going to be looking at PS2-ish era and above. So, but if you want, I should rephrase that. If you want to play games where when they were launched, when they were released, they had access to, two sticks. That's where you're going to be. But all of the games, you can technically use the two sticks. I hope that makes sense. Like they're programmable to be used in that situation. So we'll fire up a game here. Classic Castlevania loading screen from the NES. Let's get the sound turned up. The screen looks great. It's very fluid. I think the sound is good too. Even though they're not really firing directly at you, the speakers, it still sounds good. Okay. That's just a boss fight that I'm going to lose, so I'm going to exit. Some PSP games on here as well. Get your Tekken, Grand Theft Auto, God of War, Castlevania. So there's a lot. There are some ports as well. There's a Quake port that I tried playing and I could not control it for the life of me. I'll just show it to you. Gosh. Okay. So, obviously both, you'll see the sticks work. Okay. See how the sticks do work? You can go forward and you can turn, right? But just by default, the triggers on the back control the camera and the strafing. They don't control the shooting. So if you want to actually shoot, so let's go select the first act. Hope this is coming in through. Oh, you're mostly seeing me, aren't you? With the reflection there. Oh, this is terrible. Sorry about that. Well, hopefully, wow, that's super reflective, guys. Hopefully that's better. There we go. That's what it is. There's a bad guy up here. Ah, see, I just can't control it. All right, so you'll want to play around with the settings to make sure you can control it. But anyway, if you're looking for a handheld, it's a bit on the larger side and you're willing to shove it into your pocket or put it into your bag, then I think you're going to get a lot of, you're going to be very happy with this. It is a plastic build. It's not like one of those metal handhelds, but the fact that it can play so many different games, it has good battery life. The controls are great, by the way. The buttons feel amazing. Like that to me is worth the additional cost rather than going to like an older device like a Trim UI brick. This is quite good. So, okay, I hope you found this helpful. Thanks to LitNXT for sending it over, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.